We're just going to jump right into our second panel, which is on thriving at Williams. And we've got some really important voices for you to hear that represent a wide range of offices and programs that can really help you think about the various ways that we support all aspects of student life and student thriving here on campus. So I'm going to have our panelists again introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their work, and then we'll reopen it for questions. I'm going to start with Wendy.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I bring you greetings on behalf of the whole team of our health and wellness services for students here. It is consisted of basically two sides of the house. There is integrative well-being services, and I'm the director of integrative well-being services. My name is Dr. Wendy Adam, and I'm thrilled to be here with you all. My counterpart in medical services, her name is Deb Flynn. She's a nurse practitioner and has a whole team of nurses and medical staff that is available to support your students here. And as I thought about this time with you today, I was thinking, what could possibly be helpful? You all have probably heard from many people and gone to a lot of meetings and are just trying to take it all in. And then I realized that what might be helpful is actually having you all use yourselves as an example this afternoon, because what you're going through actually will allow us to show you how we support students here at Williams. And what I mean by that is I'd like you to think about how many of the following things are true for you. Now, you can raise your hand if you want to raise your hand, or you can just kind of think in your mind and think to yourself, is this true for me? How many of you are feeling excited? Sad? Relieved? Interested? Curious? Wondering how in the world time went so fast and your baby is ready to go to college? Maybe worried? Tired? Hopeful, proud, the list goes on and on and on. And generally speaking, this is a pretty complicated time for parents as you are supporting your young person after working so hard with them to get them here and ready for this day. For some of you, it's meant working multiple jobs year after year after year, perhaps paving a way for your child that no one else in your family has ever done. And this is a completely unknown experience for you, albeit an incredibly monumental accomplishment. Others of you have traveled from far, far, far away and are bringing your young person into a top American college, and all of the newness of the culture and the expanded ideas and different opportunities. Whatever your story, it is very likely that your pathway to here has been complicated and full of unexpected twists and turns. True? Yes? Maybe? So for those of you who were kind of listening to my list a moment ago and were thinking, wow, I do feel sad that I might not be seeing my son or daughter as often, or that I am suddenly going to have to ask permission to learn about what's happening in their lives for this FERPA thing that people keep talking about. Or I feel happy and I feel so proud they're coming to Williams. Well, most likely, it's some combination of those things. And what we know in student health and wellness services is to function the very best possible way, whether we're talking about you all being parents right now, supporting your young person going through this transition, or what their experience is going to be like. The key is really in attending to all of those things, to recognize that having more than one experience at a time, more than one feeling at a time, that all fits when something is as big as this, when something is as new as this. And that's a healthy way to be. We like to think of that here as integrative living, that you can integrate the things that are going well and the things that are not, the things that are really new, perhaps stressful, the things that are disappointing, the things that are so amazing and so fun, all at once. Because part of becoming a healthy adult and functioning well and taking care of oneself is being able to process all of these complicated things at any given time and still take care of one's responsibilities and relationships and self-care. What we offer your young person here is, and really what we're working hard on as a college, is to take a leadership role on what it means to be a healthy college student. What would it take to use this time in college, this unique time in college, to make sure that your young person had the skills and the knowledge that they needed to take care of themselves, not just while they're here to be healthy and well, but to go beyond that and to take that out into the world? What if we could lead by assuring that all the graduates of Williams College were as competent in taking care of themselves and being well as they were in the disciplines that they studied? That's the vision that we have for health and wellness services here, and we're on our way. We already have a full range of health and mental health services that are traditionally offered at many universities and colleges in the United States. We have both primary care, medical care, as well as access to various specialists. So if your son or daughter gets sick or hurt or somehow needs some sort of an assistance, Deb Flynn and the medical team, they can take care of that. If your child gets injured in some way and needs transport to emergency services, we have the ability to do that. If they need immunizations or have allergies or need help coordinating prescriptions or even learning about nutrition or getting information on substance use or how to stay healthy when they travel, we can cover that too. That's all through medical services and health and wellness services. What we also have is a full range of mental health services, crisis assessment, psychological counseling services, psychiatric care, everything from drop-in sessions to talk about how much they miss their parents, to difficult relationships, to ongoing support about things like social injustices and emerging identities and colliding really difficult emotions. We can also manage very complex psychological conditions, all of that in-house. We see it actually as an important part of Williams, that students are strengthened in mind, not only academically, but also in resilience, in how to cope with their lives, how to handle challenges that come, how to face uncertainties, and to actually acknowledge when they need something, not to block it out or ignore it until it becomes a crisis. The majority of students, and I will say that again, the majority of students at Williams benefit from some type of counseling support at some period of time during their study at Williams, and this is a good thing. We teach students to trust that struggle and asking for help is a part of being a healthy adult. And we want them to welcome their own humanness as growing adults. Here they learn how to integrate different pieces of their lives that are complicated and can help them truly thrive. We also recognize, and this is really important, we recognize that various cultures and some faith-based traditions see psychological counseling as somehow at odds with cultural traditions or values, and we respect that. So we offer a full range of services that include psychological counseling, but also goes beyond that. In integrative well-being services, we focus on teaching students how to thrive in college and beyond, to build competency at being well, not just handle crises. This is especially important in this rigorous academic environment. It's rigorous here. The students work hard. They play hard. They're constantly busy. It's especially important in these very complicated national and global times we are in. Students need the support. So through integrative well-being services, our side of the house, if you will, students have access to a whole range of skills building and educational workshops, groups, practice sessions, all sorts of things. They can learn things like mindfulness and meditation, self-compassion and gratitude practice. These are all emerging areas of science-based skills that are directly linked to student health and wellness and well-being, and they can learn those through us. It'll impact their capacity to learn and manage stress and stay connected and make better choices. We work to cultivate students' well-being in heart, mind, body, and spirit. We're ultimately committed to assuring that this is a Williams where all students can thrive, all students. And we can't do it alone, and we don't do it alone. You're going to be hearing today from a number of people with whom we work closely, from Accessibility Services, the Chaplain's Office, the Davis Center Multicultural Center. You've heard from folks from the Dean's Office and Campus Life, and together we serve as guardians of your students' experience here while they're at Williams. What you can know is there will be some time when something goes wrong for your student in their experience here. It may be a bad decision, it may be an unexpected illness, it may be a complicated peer relationship, or just being overwhelmed with expectations. But what you can also know is there is an entire team of people here wanting to take really good care of your son or daughter in the best possible way. We see students as whole people. We want to attend to their physical needs and uplift their spirits when they need it. We want to help them find purpose and meaning in how hard they're working here and everything that they're doing, and build strong relationships that'll serve them both now and beyond college. What I can also tell you is that very much like your experience here today, your students' transition to Williams is going to be complicated too, with lots of highs and lows and everything in between. And what you can know with absolute certainty is that they are not alone here. Student Health and Wellness Services, in partnership with so many other departments, we are here, we're invested, we care deeply about our students, and we will come to know and care deeply about your sons and daughters. You can cherish that as you return to your respective lives and hold dear in your heart your son and your daughter, knowing that we are right here with them, doing our very best to make them have a healthy, well, and whole experience. So on behalf of Student Health and Wellness Services, welcome to Williams.
Hello, folks. My name is G.L. Wallace, and I'm the Director of Accessible Education here at Williams College. As Wendy sort of pointed out, as I'm sure you are quite aware, Williams is a challenging academic environment. Students come here oftentimes, the best and brightest in their classes, and they come to Williams, and it's possible to struggle. And what happens when students have some challenges? Well, again, my office sort of provides certain levels of support that sort of try to address some of the struggles that your students may have as they sort of work their way through their academic careers here. On the one side of things, there are sort of disability services, supports that we provide under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Some students come to us with very clear plans already articulated, but for many, many students here on campus, those plans are not really very well identified. Some students, because they've done very well academically in high school, come to Williams and find that through the course of taking courses and sort of the general sort of crucible of the space, that some academic supports are necessary, and we provide those through our office. We also provide other kinds of services as well that relate to things like time management, study skills. And believe me, while your student comes here, I'm sure, quite well prepared, it is not uncommon for students to come here and find that, well, there are actually more supports that are actually necessary. There's some skills that perhaps I might need to hone a bit or develop in order to be successful at a place like Williams. And so our office will help to provide some of those kinds of supports. And so if I can impress one thing upon you, it is to, as Wendy indicated, know that there are a variety of folks here on campus who are here to support your student. There are a variety of folks here on campus who work together to support your student. There isn't anyone at this table or on, again, this platform that I haven't sort of worked with in some capacity to help support students. I spend a good portion of my week actually having conversations about your students. And so if there's something I can impress upon you to impress upon your student, then that would be to make sure that you make contact with someone. That struggling isn't something that needs to be a reason to hide. It's a reason to actually go out and seek support, actually. The best students here at Williams are students who utilize a variety of supports here on campus. The best students here. The students, again, who will struggle, or oftentimes students who really, again, have difficulty reaching out and seeking support. And so if you can possibly impress upon your student to make sure that they recognize that there are folks here who are here to support them and folks who are capable of providing them with the levels of support that they actually need, depending on the circumstances. And so I will work with your students in a variety of capacities, whether it be, again, based on an injury, perhaps, that they get on the basis of participating in a sport of some sort or an accident of some sort. If they're having some difficulty managing the pretty sizable reading load that students deal with, I'll be involved in some of that as well. If it's basically trying to figure out a plan to handle the larger academic load, I'll be involved in that process also. But an important part of all this is your student actually reaching out. And I'm going to give you a sort of a term that we sort of use in my office to think about the various ways that you want to think about the supports your student might need and the things that your student wants to be doing while they're sort of here at Williams. And you sort of refer to this as RSVP. And so if you have questions for your student about how they're doing, 3 things that you can ask them. Again, summed up in this sort of RSVP sort of moniker, if you will. 1, reading. Making sure that you are, again, addressing the workload. You're doing the readings and so forth, the basic work, if you will. Asking about that is important. Speaking in class, engaging. For a lot of students, engaging with their professors or actually engaging in the class is an opportunity for them to get to learn about the students that they're working with, as well as, again, sort of the professors that they're going to come to know over the course of the time that they're here. The last part of the VP is visiting the professors. Professors are an important resource here, and engaging them on a consistent basis is absolutely essential, whether it be recommendations for jobs, whether it be, again, advancing their knowledge and their discipline. That level of engagement is extremely important. So if you're ever curious about how your student is doing, you ask them about those 3 things here. Again, the reading, the speaking in class. Are you visiting your professors? And these are the kinds of things I'm also going to be asking and working with your students with and around while they're here also. So again, the main thing, though, is seeking out support, accessing support when it's needed, and asking questions about what supports are available as well. And so again, my name is G.L. Wallace, and again, I'm the Director of Accessible Education here on campus. I can promise you, if your student comes to me and asks me, what kind of assistance can I get? What kind of assistance might I need? I will be in a position to provide them with that support or to direct them to the people who will also be able to assist them as well. No one sort of gets through this by themselves. They didn't get here by themselves in the first place. And for them to make their way through Williams and be successful and to develop the skills that are going to be necessary for the next stages of their lives, again, it begins with seeking out support and, again, asking for help when necessary. So again, my name is G.L. Wallace. If you have any questions, again, a little later on or after the fact, please make sure you reach out. And remember to ask your students those 3 things: reading, speaking in class, visiting your professors. All right? Thanks for your time, folks.
Good afternoon. My name is Sharif Rosen. I'm the Muslim chaplain here at Williams College, and I'm going to be speaking on behalf of my colleagues in the chaplain's office. First off, I'm really honored to sit here alongside my friends and colleagues to welcome you and your sons and daughters to Williams College. Chaplains like stories, so I'm going to start with a very brief story. I was walking through one of the dining halls yesterday, and the head of dining services, he comes up to me, and he said, "Sharif, I have some new halal food options, and I want to take them up to your office to try them. And if you think they're any good, I really want to offer them to the students." Now, just to put that story in context a little bit, the college has been offering and accommodating very diverse dietary needs for a long time, be it halal, kosher, and a range of other things for a long time. But I mention this story because for me it speaks volumes to the way that the college is totally dedicated to respecting every belief and custom, every dietary need, and not only just checking off a box, but is always working to improve what they're already doing to support students during their time at Williams. As a Muslim and someone who came from an interfaith and multicultural home, it's been really an incredible experience for me to witness and to contribute to the college's greater commitment to expanding services and resources for all students. This includes the college's desire to create an inclusive campus for students who come from across the map of religious and faith traditions, and for the diversities that exist within any faith community. And if we ask why that is, why Williams has made such a commitment, I think it stems from the fact that the college recognizes that an essential part of the learning community that we are recreating here every day is a place where students should feel able to represent and to live out their beliefs and their practices and their customs in confidence and in total safety. Our learning culture here also encourages students to expand their understandings beyond what's familiar, to benefit from the richness of the campus's diversity, and to actively build friendships and community across differences of perspective. As for the chaplain's office specifically, like the Davis Center and other offices on campus, we are trying hard every day to promote a culture of dialogue, a culture of encounter, where the ability to listen and reflect across difference with respect is considered so vital to the student experience here. Now, one of the questions that students and parents often ask is, well, what do the chaplains do? Who are they? So let me say something about that. Our chaplaincy is made up of a Protestant reverend, a rabbi, an imam, and a Catholic priest. And no, that's not the start of a joke. That's the composition of our office.
I'll walk into a bar.
A couple of us stay outside the bar, but anyways. But we don't inhabit those roles in predictable ways. When we hear those titles mentioned, it would be easy to assume that we only serve the campus by leading and facilitating prayer, holiday observances, and so forth. Each of us certainly does that for students who are interested in the practice of their faith, but I can assure you that we aspire to do much more than that. Each chaplain at Williams is here to honor the quest of every student to discover what matters to them and why. We're here to answer any question that a student feels is important enough to ask, and even the questions they've been hesitant to ask. We're here to talk with students about things that sometimes have nothing to do with religion or faith or spirituality or devotional practices. And that's because the specific kind of care that college chaplaincy offers is not about preaching or instructing. It's about walking alongside students with compassion, with care and concern, not judgment, as they encounter the rough and smooth of their lives. We're focused on helping students savor the role of reflection and balance in finding their own fulfillment, not only at Williams, but in their lives beyond college. We also want to create in the chaplain's office a space for students to explore how their core values will connect to the struggles for greater peace, love, and justice in this world. Finally, it's also important for me to mention that as part of our culture of care that we have in the chaplain's office, we are not only here to serve students who claim a religious identity, and certainly not only those who claim the same religious identity as each of us in the office. It goes without saying, it should go without saying, that the chaplains, like every office on campus, serve the entire student body with hearts and minds that are wide open and welcome to all. At some point soon, probably starting at the Purple Key Fair, incoming students will have the chance to connect with any or all of the 15 different active faith communities that are on campus. And for those students who are less interested in that, at the Purple Key Fair and other venues, they will have many, if not more, opportunities to also find their communities, while always being welcome to attend any activities that are being hosted by any of the campus faith groups, and certainly, again, anything that the chaplain's office is working on. So again, we are very grateful to welcome you and your sons and daughters to the Williams community, and we look forward to making an incredible experience for them. Thank you.
I would follow y'all.
No, great.
Good afternoon. Ooh, y'all are tired. I'm Shauna Patterson-Stevens, and I'm the director of the Davis Intercultural and Research Center. Something that we really focus on with our students, with our faculty, staff, and surrounding community is the fact that you don't leave yourself at the door when you enter into another space. So you don't leave yourself in your room so you can go to class, right? You don't leave yourself at home before you go to work. And so we're trying to help our students understand that in addition to making sure that you have developed a sense of self and understand where you are in your values, and who you are as an individual, you don't leave that when you enter into spaces. And so at Williams, something that we're really focused on is making sure that when our students enter these spaces, we are taking them in for who they are and allowing them to learn at the utmost ability as possible for them where they are. And so if your students are experiencing situations where they may have difficulty understanding the concepts that come with identity formation, they can come to us. If your students are experiencing issues as it relates to taking their identities into a classroom and they don't necessarily feel like it's connecting with the curriculum or connecting with the professor, they can come to us. We have the mantra lead, support, and educate. And so we focus on making sure that we are integrating social justice concepts into their co-curricular activities as well. We offer several programs with and for them. We offer opportunities for students to delve into leadership. So if you have a student who's really interested in learning how to become a more fluid activist, someone who may not necessarily want to be on the sidelines marching, but is interested in maybe trying to take a more philosophical or academic approach to being active and enforcing a more clear opportunity for individuals to think and connect, we can do that with them. We offer advising, student group advising, and also individual one-on-one advising. So as Wendy was alluding to earlier, when a student is encountering an issue, because we all encounter issues every day, right? So just assuming that our students are at college, we can't then assume that the issues will go away or that they won't confront something. We always confront some kind of conflict in our everyday life. It makes us who we are, it makes us stronger. And so when we're assisting students through those conflicts, we're working with our colleagues, we're working with the student to devise a plan to help them succeed. So help your student understand that if they at any time have some kind of issue as it relates to belonging, as it relates to feeling disconnected, as it relates to wanting to get more involved, wanting to become a more firm part of the community, they can come to us. We're in the Davis Center. One thing I want to note, we are surrounded by construction. So it can be a little intimidating to try and devise a way to enter into our space right now. But if you have them call us and they have a hard time getting in, we will come outside and meet them on the street and walk them to the door. But it's another place to be home. We are very focused on making sure that they feel at home when they enter our doors. And so if they ever feel like they're not feeling like they're at home, they can come to us.
So as I said at the beginning, subject matter experts whose work is completely intertwined every day. I mean, this is just a great example of that. So, I'm sure that didn't stimulate any questions whatsoever. Fire away. Yes, sir.
What type of support is it that you provide in the area of birth control and sexual activity and stuff like that?
Stuff. Yes, yes. That's the technical term. Yes.
So I'll field that question, and at moments like these, I also wish that my colleague Deb Flynn was here to talk more specifically about the medical services that you may have questions about. And I would, if I don't answer your question specifically enough, please feel free to reach out to her directly in medical services. I would say that we do a number of different things. Certainly, if there are any kind of clinical, physical concerns of any kind, whether it's just about questions or about something changing in their bodies, they're concerned about, whatever, they can come in and feel received very well by our staff in talking about those things. We encourage it. We have staff that are very aware that this is a time period in many young adults' lives where sexuality is, if not a new experience, an expanding experience. And there lots of questions come with that, in addition to a lot of different concerns about one's body. And so any number of people at the health and wellness services can address this. It could be directly with a nurse, for example. It could come up with one of the counselors. We have Let's Talk sessions where we have folks available just to talk about things that people have questions about. They don't even need an appointment. It can come up there. There are student peer health services also, where students can go and get things like condoms if they need that, and access to other students to talk about these issues. So we provide a number of different workshop level kinds of discussions and really try to facilitate their comfort in bringing any concern that they have to us. And we see sexuality as a part of a healthy human adult development. And so we want them to feel comfortable with their bodies and with that whole area of their development. So that help you in any way or address that?
Okay.
The Davis Center also houses a gender and sexuality resource center. So something that's really cool about the spaces are that the students can get into the spaces at any time, 24 hours with their card. Within the center, we house condoms, dental dams, all types of condoms for whatever need they might have. And we also work in partnership with the houses to make sure that we have condoms available in the entries.
And we also, there's a significant amount of both peer and health education. We have health educators on our staff that certainly work with these topics. We provide a full range of gynecological services through folks that come onto campus 2 or 3 times a week through appointment. Full range of STD testing, blood testing. We work with all the local hospitals, et cetera, on all those things. So it's just a part of all the other med services that we provide.
So I have a second part to my question, which is, the students who have the university health insurance policy or plan, how is that coordinated with local healthcare providers? If there's any coordination at all, or I'm just not sure. I don't fully understand.
Right. So our health center does not. We don't charge for any of the services we have. Right. So you don't have to use the insurance there. As far as if you go to a local hospital or you use a local service provider, it's just between the patient, the insurance company, and that provider. We don't typically have to get involved. Sometimes there may be a gap in that or something, and the dean's office, Rachel Buchanz was here before, they can help sometimes with funding or with coordinating, but if there's something that you're having a question about or a difficulty with, our folks can get involved and try to help translate what's going on. Because as we all know, nothing ever goes wrong with insurances or medical services or anything. So, yeah, it's something that we because we're connected with everybody in the region, it's something that we're able to provide that kind of help with. Yes, ma'am.
Just curious, seeing a bit of construction around campus.
Yes.
And also hearing things about freshman science buildings. Can you tell us what types of new facilities are going to be coming over our students' 4 years here? And kind of give an idea of what the focus is of where you guys think things are moving.
Sure. So there's always, because our buildings are pretty old and there's a wide range of ages and systems in them, there's sometimes the construction is just renewing existing buildings. The biggest project we have going on now, which is the biggest project we've ever done, is the Science Center, which is going to be in 2 phases. Right now, the south building is that one that's closest to Shauna's office, and hopefully we will, I would love to have that cleared up so people don't have to wear a hard hat to visit other offices. And so that should be finished within this year. And then we begin the process of working on the north building. So one building is going to come down. It's called Bronfman. That's going to be demolished this fall, I believe. And then we begin the process of building the what's called the North Science Building. So that'll be done while your students are here. Our new bookstore just opened now on Spring and Walden Street. So that's one piece that's done. We're going to be working on Garfield House, which is a residence hall that's over on South Street, not too far from the Clark Art Institute. And that will be, the old building will be demolished and a new residence hall, 40-bed residence hall will be going up there. That should also be completed while your students are here. Those are the biggest projects. There's going to be at the very base of Spring Street a new inn. We're going to be replacing the Williams Inn, and that'll be on the end of Spring Street. That won't affect too much of, it won't feel like it's a part of a campus thing, but that's just more cranes and banging. But it's actually really exciting that we've been able to renew a lot of these things. And the emphasis on the sciences has strictly been due to the expansion of interest in the sciences, especially in chemistry and biology. And so we really had to expand and renew the facilities that we have to support the way research is being done now, especially interdisciplinary research.
Can we also add our exciting new Hewitt House?
Yes, please. I'm going to let Wendy do this.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Selfishly, I'm thrilled about this, but I think in a year from now, we're going to have another building that really demonstrates the college's commitment to investing in student health and wellness. We have outgrown, because of the college's investment in health and wellness services, our current Thompson Health Center that houses both sides of our medical services and integrative well-being services. So the college decided this year to take a building that's literally across the street and completely renovate it to be conducive to the integrative well-being services that I was describing earlier. So we'll have spaces for these kinds of groups and practice sessions and counseling sessions and all of that in a space that is very welcoming and residential for students. Again, building on what Shauna said about creating a homey environment. So that will be done in 1 year, and we're thrilled about it and very grateful to the college for that kind of support.
Thanks. Yeah, it's really, really, really exciting. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
As far as the psychological testing, I noticed that on the website, and I think somebody mentioned that it took it to a point where students are diagnosed and even offered medication for certain things. And I just had a question based on experience that I had with a niece of mine who also is in college and who was given a medication by her health services. What kind of follow-up do you give on that? Because it ended up not being a good situation for her to stay on this medication. And with the policy that you had to not notify parents or, to not discuss those things with us. It was, a little scary in her case, not finding it out for a long period.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry that was her experience. It sounds pretty devastating for the family and difficult. At Williams, what is relatively unique is that we do the majority of all of the psychological services, including psychiatric care, in-house. And what makes it unique is that for most university counseling centers across the United States, there are a lot of limits on what they can provide just because there's not enough therapists or physicians per student. The college has continued to invest and invest and invest, so we have a much better ratio of how many therapists we have for how many students, which allows us to do a few things. We provide all of our own on-call crisis coverage 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with our internal therapists. It's not shipped out to some 800 number or anything like that. Many centers only see students in crisis and then refer out to local resources. We retain the students and see them in-house with our own therapists. On the psychiatric one, relative to your question about medication, we have a half-time psychiatrist that is a part of our team. She's there all week long with us, half days. And so she gets to know the students very intimately, follows them directly. And so one of the benefits of getting psychiatric care through Williams directly is that these students aren't just going out into some sort of outside provider where we don't know how they're doing. We follow them directly in-house. And so there are times when students have either bad reactions to medications or have some other really severe or potentially safety risk. And we've had students who've ended up in hospital, for example. And at that time, we work really closely with the dean's office according to college policy to make sure that the appropriate notification channels do happen. So I hope that addresses your question, but primarily the in-house coverage and that our psychiatrist would follow that person, usually weekly at first, be available on call, and then as the medication would move forward, ideally well, then those visits would become less frequent, but are followed directly.
At any point in the crisis intervention process, as parents, I mean, obviously, I know they're adults and there are policies, but are we considered like in that line of communication at any point, or how does that work?
We consider the parents always. We think about a student in the context of family and in a larger system. So what I can tell you is what we are able to do legally and what we consider are two separate things. So we are very much focused on this person as a part of the family right from the very beginning. What I can also say is that we want your students to feel absolutely comfortable that when they reach out for help, they can trust that we will hold that in confidence as young adults, that they can bring their biggest need to us. And so if we do anything that undermines that, word gets out like that, right? And it compromises everyone's access to having the source. What I also know is that when students get into a tremendous crisis, if they get into an emergency situation, even if they have been adamant for almost the whole time they don't want their parents to know, there comes a point often where students will say, I gotta get mom involved now, or I've gotta reach out to aunt or whomever. And if there is, of course, any type of urgent emergency issue, hospitalization, that sort of thing, if your student ends up getting so ill that he or she needs to leave campus and go on leave, the dean's office is actively engaged in making sure that those connections also happen directly with parents.
Just as a follow-up to that, if a child wants to talk to their family about a newly discovered psychiatric issue or some other serious medical issue, but they are afraid to do that, don't know how to do that, how to start that conversation, do you provide support and guidance in those conversations?
Yes, it's a great question. Thank you. One of the reasons why I mentioned that we see the student in the context of a family system is that part of our work when students begin to grapple with, if let's say they're anxious or depressed or have some sort of other issue that comes up, we want to know that they can access the best support system, not just internally, but also external to Williams, and obviously family members that they feel connected to. Even if they're kind of worried about disclosing this or they don't really know how to do it, that's a big part of our work with supporting students in making sure they're as connected and supported as they can be. So absolutely, our therapists work directly with the students. Here's how to bring it up, this is how, okay, your dad might respond this way or your grandma might not support this, and so let's kind of practice that. How will you tell? Who can you tell? That kind of thing. Very much a part of the work that we do.
There are lots of roads into those conversations. Students will become familiar with one of these folks, one of their colleagues in their offices, and that may be the place where they're most comfortable starting that conversation, that process, and they're all connected. Folks are always talking about, when you talk about a real crisis, talking about before the dean's office would be very involved right from the very beginning in those conversations. So there's lots of support and lots of connections in there. The regulations that prevent us from sharing that are federal. And so we have to be very, very thoughtful and careful, as well as not wanting to undermine the confidence of students that we can hold what they bring to us. And so it's a very tricky road, but our folks are very experienced in knowing when they need to go to bring this in a new direction as well.
One other thing that comes to mind just with that is that Williams overall is a campus that supports mental health as an important part of functioning, right? So the students embrace it, whereas in many areas of campus life across in other universities and colleges, there's a lot of stigma around mental health services or going for support, that sort of thing. That is much less true here. There's an active, really an activism
Yes.
level of support for advocating for mental health services here. And so that also provides some wraparound kind of a cultural support within the campus community for talking to people about what's going on and practicing having those conversations. And I think that makes a big difference as well.
We also don't limit the number of sessions somebody can go to. And we know that over the last couple of years, for example, almost 60% of the graduating class had been to integrative wellness, well-being services at least once in their time there. So students are really taking strong advantage of it. Last year, 29% of the student body had been in that 1 year. So we really continue to expand the ways that we approach it, as Wendy said, not only in terms of providing service when you're not feeling well, but in terms of also making well-being a core competency and getting ahead of that and giving people ways to learn how to persist and to learn how to take care of themselves as well.
Steve, there's one question in
Oh,
the back.
Yes.
Yeah, I would just like some clarification on winter break because we have a family vacation coming up in December. When exactly does winter break begin and end? Because on the calendar here, it says that from January 3rd until the 26th, there's a winter study.
Winter
break.
study, correct,
Yeah, does the student have to be on campus for that, or how does that work?
They have to be enrolled in a winter study program. Some of them are not on campus and some of them are, but they do have to be engaged during that time. The winter break is what happens when they finish their finals after the end of the fall semester, and January 3rd.
So if you're not enrolled in the winter study, then your winter break is basically from December 19th.
No, you have to be. Everybody has to take, yes, every four years you have to take it. Yes. Yes.
Another, just a quick clarifying question for the accessibility counselor. So your job is to help when they need help managing, like their schedule, or?
Well, there are a couple of prongs, as I mentioned before. One relates to disability support, and the other part relates to sort of general sort of academic skills, related to time management, again, the development of competencies within the classroom, et cetera, how to manage, one's time outside the classroom as well. So there's sort of two, again, different sort of prongs of things. And actually, to follow up a little bit on what Wendy was saying a little bit earlier, oftentimes one of the first times that students will sort of begin thinking about or have to grapple with the implications of a medication plan is when there is a diagnosis of a condition that can be sort of addressed under the Americans with Disabilities Act. So whether it be ADD, ADHD, things along those lines. And for a number of students, there are a number of different questions that they might ask in terms of what that means. Is this an appropriate course of action for me? And more than likely, the folks who are on this sort of at this table, in some ways, can be a part of that larger process of the student considering the implications of this. And so, from my vantage point, what will happen oftentimes is a student will have difficulty in the classroom and in other classes, and begin to wonder, okay, what's actually happening? How do I sort of adjust to this? What's going on? I'm taking more time than everyone else on this exam, or it's taking me a lot longer to sort of finish a writing assignment, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the first time they begin to ask questions about whether or not there are additional supports that can be necessary. And this happens, again, for a variety of students from a variety of backgrounds. And so what will oftentimes happen is there'll be an initial sort of consultation with myself, and the folks from this table will oftentimes also be the ancillary supports that students will also seek out to consider the implications of what this means for them. Because oftentimes the sort of the idea of a disability is something that people think of that relates to being in a wheelchair or having a significant impairment of some sort, when in fact it oftentimes means that we're talking about academic supports, things that are useful to address the implications of being in a different environment potentially. But those kinds of supports and the consideration of how to approach those supports oftentimes doesn't come without a good deal of consideration with professionals on campus, whether it be, again, folks in Wendy's sort of staff, whether it be folks in Sharif's office, or, again, also in Shauna's as well. And so one of the things I think it's important to sort of impart here is that a lot of the decisions that students make about their academics, about their health, that it will oftentimes involve a variety of different actors from a variety of different parts of the campus here. And so there's more of a holistic approach, and because we're a sort of small campus, we know that you're students. We sort of know their circumstances, we know how they're doing their classes, we talk to their professors, and so the kinds of questions that they're asking are not being addressed without folks who are clear about the really about the various aspects of their lives that go into making decisions about these things, about how they're going to pursue whatever forms of redress they think are appropriate under the circumstances. So the main thing to impart here is that, again, there are a variety of people who are involved in decision-making processes, oftentimes about health, about academics, about overall and general well-being, extracurriculars, and so forth and so on. So I hope that sort of is a...
No, actually, both of you have made the connection. Our leader, our group leader actually spoke to these things because she talked about, number one, how she was going to the mental health stuff just for, just maintenance. Like she just liked to go to talk. So what you said as far as it being encouraged, and not having stigma. And then she also spoke to having went and talked to her dean and identifying like a learning disorder. I think she's her challenge that she said she had and how that really helped her. So, it was awesome to hear that there were those resources on campus, and it's kind of all coming together now with things that she kind of mentioned, what advice do.
Yeah, students come from very sort of diverse sort of spaces and places, and part of what our role is to make sure that we have avenues available to students so that they can make the best choices they can about how they want to utilize resources or make choices that are important in their lives. And so, as I said before, I've had communication with every single person here at this table about particular students, referred students to folks here as well, because again, in order to make intelligent decisions about how you want to pursue matters of import, you want to make sure that you're consulting folks and talking to folks and getting the best advice possible about the best course of action. And sometimes that course of action also means talking to mom and dad about this as well. So.
Thank you, panel. Rob, you have something you want to say, some wisdom?